Welcome to The Longer Game, the only show that's dedicated to the future of retail. We bring on real-life people in the retail industry. We talk about their experiences, we share their stories, we apply it to what's currently going on in the market, and we look towards the future of retail. You could say it's retail reimagined. My name is Michael Marr. I run a customized, done-for-you service agency called Cartology that helps brands win on Amazon. Now, while my expertise stems in the Amazon field, we bring on a wide array of guests because retail is expansive. You've got e-commerce. Yes, you've got marketplaces like Amazon. You've also got brick and mortar that is evolving. You've got logistics. You've got technology, finance. There are so many aspects to retail, and it's complicated. So we're here to bring you the entire story. Do you think that you have an interesting story and you'd like to tell it on the podcast? Then go to thelongergame.com and fill out a form to be a guest on the show today. You can catch The Longer Game on any social channels: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and our website, thelongergame.com. We've got all awesome guests on this show, so that I will promise. Are you ready to hear more about the future of retail? Let's get down to business. Welcome, everybody, to The Longer Game, the podcast where we talk all about retail. And that's a pretty expansive definition. We go from digital to in-store to basically whatever I want to talk about because I'm the host and I get to decide what we talk about. Today on the podcast, I have a guest. Her name is Dani Dufresne. She is the CEO and founder of the K.I.S.S Co. And I said she's an executional expert, but she is also a creative production expert as well. And I'm going to let her explain a little bit more about what she does. Welcome to the show, Dani. Nice to have you.
Great. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me. Love chatting all things retail, but also just all things creative, creative projects and ideation. So thanks for having me. I am executive producer and founder at the K.I.S.S Co, and we do fractional production operations for brands and agencies, really just bringing their creative ideas to life, whatever that may be. That means a lot of different things. That could be creative consulting about how to approach a certain execution, what something might cost, how to look at all of your productions from a creative standpoint and like be more efficient. But it really can be from digital assets, out of home assets, photo shoots, video shoots, film, documentaries, events, community building, brand building, all across the board, really taking it from more of an agency creative critical thinking standpoint.
When I think about creative, or maybe someone else thinks about creative, everyone's probably got a little bit different definition of what that means. And I think about creative, I'm thinking about maybe a little bit more depth than the average person. I'm not trying to toot my own horn per se, but all right, I'm thinking about, okay, let's start with a brand. I'm not talking about necessarily logo or design, although that's important, but who am I wanting to talk to? Why am I wanting to talk to that person? Is there an end goal or output that I'm looking for? And then in what style do I want to convey, and what is the voice, the brand voice that I want to have? That's really important to me for content that we put out. Is, does it align with not just my personal brand voice, but The Longer Game or my agency Cartology? Do those brand voices align? Do they make a lot of sense? That's a starting point. But then the other end of that is okay, I want to now create and produce content. We're starting to get into deeper realms of creative, but more executional stuff of okay, I know what maybe my brand voice and ideas, but am I conveying that with the right messaging? Am I doing that with the right design, with the right, am I putting all that stuff out? And I think a lot of people probably just think, oh yeah, creative, I'm just going to create content and that's it. And it's very monochromatic. And my guess is it's way deeper and harder to explain than people might think that it is. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it also depends on the stage that the company and the brand is in, and the work that you're doing maybe with agencies of various, digital agencies, media agencies, PR agencies, creative agencies. I've been doing this long enough to remember when they were all separate. And now, we're seeing a lot more 360 agencies, which I think for smaller retail brands is the best bet, whether it's a good partnership with your in-house creative team who really has a strong vision, and then the ability to partner with a smaller agency or bring in teams like mine or a combination of both to execute those ideas, because you also need to make sure that you're bringing people to the table that are poking holes in your plans. People that are willing to, your in-house team isn't going to raise their hand if they think something's a terrible idea. I've I've been at many of those calls where I've been the one saying this is not a great idea, because that's the number one thing that I think that we bring to the table, right?
Critical
Is
thinking.
critical thinking and shaking the tree to see what sticks, because gone are the days, I feel like, of when you could asking questions is not saying that you're wrong. Me asking questions is not starting an argument or being like, it should not make someone get defensive. That's collaboration.
Yeah.
When I'm asking you questions, it's because I want to see what the actual crux of your idea is, because what you think your idea is and what it actually is and can grow into and be may not be the same thing. And a lot of times, as a brand or even an agency, when agencies are going from pitch to pitch to pitch, they're not always thinking the best for that brand, or they're not thinking about like different approaches if it's not something they've done before. And the in-house team is so close to it, they don't
Sure.
have the ability to have an outside perspective. So I bring, all of that to the table, along with a team of producers that really just execute, like bringing on the best people to execute. So we embed white label producers at brands and agencies, and then whatever the project is, we bring in the individual teams best skilled for that. So we help scale up each of those projects. So I can give you an example from a retail sort of brand perspective, but a few years ago, the Gemini credit card was launching, and they were really looking to do a huge launch. The owners of the card also obviously have a huge investment in NFT platforms. And so they wanted to make a huge splash, and just had they had already were preparing for the biggest media out of home buy I have ever seen. And so what we did was we brought in 6 NFT artists within their network.
I like this already.
To basically design an ad that is saying, like, if buying this water bottle or ordering a salad could make me the next crypto millionaire because I'm getting crypto instead of cashback or points, right? Then what's their version of that? So we created 5 very minimal brief, very minimal creative direction to those artists, just briefed them in. They created the ads. The ads were then sold as NFTs. And then we took those pieces and made, added a beginning and an end to really make them a cohesive ad. And then they were everywhere. We had boats off the coast of Miami. We had billboards in Times Square. We had hand-painted billboard or, hand-painted walls. And every single asset was customized for where it was going to be seen and how it was going to be interacted with. And that makes it made such a huge impact and splash for their launch, because you couldn't go anywhere without seeing an ad for it, but you weren't seeing the same ad. You were seeing variety.
Yeah. That feels like very intentional guerrilla marketing. Like which I've seen some brands start to do, because you think about is digital, especially, people are like super ROAS focused. Like, I need to get a return. I need to get a return. I need to get a return, which it has its place. And then you've got really big brands who are like, they're buying all this programmatic. They're buying all this, streaming TV, and they're just focused on impressions. But I think there could be a good mix of I see something at an event I'm going to, then I look it up on Amazon and I find it there. And I go to their social media and I see something different, and I still see the cohesive brand, but I see something a little bit different everywhere. That to me seems like it can be super, super successful. Now, of course, it takes money to do that, but a brand that I've seen do that, I feel like who started more digital and has expanded and done more like streaming TV and events is Dude Wipes. Like, they're showing up at rodeos and WWE events, but I'm seeing them on TV. And they've got a great and growing presence on Amazon. Like, they're doing this combination, really omni-channel marketing, which is super, super smart.
I think it's a lot about, don't think that you have to have the deep pockets of a McDonald's or a Coca-Cola to make brave decisions, to not like, if you are only focused on getting sales, if you are only thinking about about the dollars hitting you from like, this investment I'm making in this one quarter needs to equal this, then you do not have a long game, and you are not brand building. That is, you're trying to have a viral month on TikTok Marketplace and then be sold and shut down, or no one can tell the difference between your apple cider vinegar wipe and somebody else's, right? That's not the long-term goal. Should not be blowing up on TikTok Shop. Like, no, like, that's not
I
it.
just want to say, 60 years ago, do you think anyone would have imagined the terms apple cider vinegar wipe? Sorry, I just had to pause to
Actually,
say
that isn't a good example, because apple cider vinegar has been along that long.
But it has, but apple cider vinegar wipe.
Or turmeric wipes, or whatever.
Turmeric
they are,
wipes,
right?
for sure. For sure. No, I was thinking.
I remember being in college and like watching something, on our VCR. I think that's how old it was. And
I love that.
Like, wouldn't it be so cool to just be like, boop, and the T-shirt that we want could just pops out of the. Obviously, we were very high, and we were like, this would be so amazing.
But ahead of your time.
Very, the best ideas are typically, but I'm seeing this, when people ask me like, well, I don't like, what should I do? Like, how can I act like a big brand? As like, you think as though you already are the big brand. Do not make decisions based on fear, because what happens is these are long-term strategies, right? Like what you're talking about with having all of the different pieces sort of connect, but they're telling different parts of the story in different ways. That takes getting everyone on board, not having different departments and different brand managers working with whoever their teams are and making different content, right? Like, I recently worked on a Jeep campaign, and that's exactly what happened. Like, all the various types of the Jeeps, right? Cherokee and the Gladiator, they all had the same like overall thing, but they all make completely different spots. And it made them like, they were making decisions out of fear, and none of them were good. And it wasn't really like investing in a long-term strategy. And the strategy that I'm seeing smart brands making now, that is long-term, and you got to stay committed to it. And it takes a few quarters or a year, is what Dude Wipes is doing. Is they are saying, who is our audience, and how can we be where they're already out? How can we also help them live that life, help them get out of their house and go do something, whether we're, it's because we're promoting the event that they're there, or we're just like, they're seeing it, or they're feeling like they, especially something that is any kind of beauty for men in particular has been a hard market to like crack. I've seen many try, and that's kind of a difficult one. But I think that when you are embracing people off their phones and off their laptops, and like either being one of the reasons that they're out there meeting people IRL, or they're out there like so that they, it's basically you're bringing the scroll to them in real life, just somewhere else. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot of, but that's a long game. It's not like, and I think you have so many brand marketers that are just scared, or they don't actually know they're not actually, if the whole term of marketing, right, the best kind of like any marketing goal is to have one real person tell another real person about a product in real life.
That's seriously best case scenario, because now that you've got trust and you've got credibility,
and you can be investing a ton of money in crazy digital campaigns or crazy like influencers. Those are not that. Those do not guarantee you that just because you're seeing impressions don't mean anything.
Right.
Like, or what they used to mean is not the same.
I mean, someone maybe viewed something.
Right? Like, just because I can, I have a client that is like, just because I can prove that we were able to communicate to this many people that this sweater has this kind of feel and this is this, doesn't mean they went out and bought more. It's just like, so what is it exactly that like we care about? And now you're also, pushing that against this generation of people that are so sick of being sold, like the younger millennials, and what is it, Gen
Z,
whatever. Gen Z,
and then do you know what's after Gen Z, which is what my daughter's in? Gen Alpha.
Alpha, and they are like, I want flip phones. I want newspapers
Yeah.
that are printed.
I want big
That's why
jeans. I want big baggy
yeah,
jeans.
nostalgia isn't coming. Nostalgia is coming back for two reasons. Obviously, because it's gonna still try to market to us as one of the largest like consumer groups. But when AI is taking everything, is taking over everything, and these young kids have no God, what was the word that somebody used for it? There's no conflict. There's nothing is hard. There is not a single thing they can get any answer or anything they need in 10 minutes with their phone. There is no like it's not conflict isn't even the best word. I'll
Friction.
think of what friction or like there's just everything is so
Yeah.
easy and also nothing can be trusted. So nothing they see is trust. So everything is going back to beta. I can trust print. I can trust something I see in real life. I can trust, if the graphics on it are all pixelated and old school, that's probably not AI. That's like you're seeing
Ah.
camcorder footage be like blowing up now. It's not just because let's be honest, the aughts sucked. There was no good style or taste or anything in the aughts. That's not why it's coming back. It's coming back because there's this like need for, remember before Facebook existed?
Yeah.
Remember when like MySpace was just like the best you could do and you would stay up all night coding your header and like trying to embed songs? That's what people want. Like they want to go back to like having friction, having things that take time, that have substance, and they're willing to pay more for it.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy to see that stuff come back, but I also feel like I'm a big believer that there's nothing new under the sun, and so a lot of things just get recycled anyway. And yeah, there are these like pendulum swings of moving more towards like mechanization and then back to maybe more like authentic and real. And I can't think of something that maybe would have been 50, 70 years ago, but I think it makes a lot of sense that we are just so inundated with information. And I don't know that we're really meant to be that inundated. I don't think we're meant to be inundated with the amount of information we have. And I don't just mean like ads, I mean like everything. The amount of content, the amount of people that we are able to connect with at any given point in time, the amount of news that we hear from even different parts of the world, like just the amount of data points that we have, we can't process or contextualize that. So it's not surprising to me that people would want to go back, I guess. And
they're opting out of it. They're like, how do I
that's a very, very nice modern way of saying, yeah.
Because even
unsubscribe, Dana. I want to unsubscribe from
opt out,
Danny.
right?
I said Dana. I don't know why I said Dana.
Okay. I mean, even stuff with like Slack, right? There are too many ways to message a person, right? At this time between Instagram and LinkedIn and Slack and Teams. It is now becoming.
Let's be honest though. If you're messaging me on Teams, I may not respond because I don't want to be on Teams at all.
I'm not on Teams, but like, you got to be on something.
I'm being very judgmental.
Google Chat, whatever. Oh, Teams.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Right. It's okay. We're not sponsored by Microsoft, so it doesn't matter.
What's worse is the blue, whatever Facebook uses, blue host or something.
Oh, I didn't even know about that.
It's bad.
Okay.
It's really bad.
Don't use Bluehost. You heard it here.
Host, whatever it is. But then they just keep making more apps, or then everyone has a new Slack channel to where I can't. There's certain communities I'm in where I have to turn the Slack off. I have to get off of it because it's becoming to where I now treat my email like I treat my mail. I don't open it. I throw it away. I assume that if you email me, you do not actually want to talk to me. And that's not true. That's just because we are over inundated with messages. Like brands shouldn't be able to text me all the time. I shouldn't be like, this is why we want to opt out. You have like, there's high schools who their newspaper, like they never had a newspaper. And now they have these huge newspaper organizations because people are like, whoa, like print. Or even I did an event for LaFay, this amazing jazz musician girl. She's very young. She's like a Icelandic or something. I did an event for YouTube Music Nights with her at the Troubadour a few weeks ago. And I had never heard of her, to be really honest, but I'm 42. I'm not her market, right? And we had a line waiting to get in the 7:00 show at noon. There were fans waiting to get in.
Whoa.
Because we had like Grammy like voters and stuff that were coming. So it wasn't guaranteed. Fans weren't guaranteed entry. We had every single we were at capacity at 550.
That's amazing.
Of that entire space. And I had listened to her like when I was preparing for the event. But I'm like, okay, she's like a female Harry Connick or like Ella Fitzgerald. But these people, her audience, when I started seeing them, they don't know who those people are.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's no context. This is new. They have discovered this new thing called jazz and R&B. And then she like literally does a Nirvana song in a jazz and smashes a guitar on stage.
That to me, like just even you saying that is so funny. It's like kids wearing a Guns N' Roses t-shirt. They don't know who Guns N' Roses is. They just know this is something from like my parents' generation.
That's sacrilegious. In my house, my husband would be like, name 5 albums.
Right, there you go. I would say the same thing.
And I would be like, I bought it in Urban Outfitters.
Yeah,
and
that's not an album. Take it off.
Yeah, exactly. And now my friend is a buyer at Urban, a buyer planner. And years ago when those shirts were becoming very, very popular, like the big bag band shirt, I remember talking to her about it. And I was like, this is crazy. Like Sublime shirts, like these, like there's like 3 Sublime songs and these people just love it. They love how grungy it looks. And they're paying a lot of money for a shirt that looks like it was like vintage and beat up. Then I had been buying them, of course, and they're also big. So I had cut them and I literally cropped one with a pair of scissors, wore it to my friend's house. And she was like, that's cute. She did it to one of hers, wore it to the Urban offices. Then they started cropping all their shirts. No joke.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Like, oh, we can just cut it and use less material and charge more for it? Done.
That's crazy. Did the price actually go up on it?
Yes.
Of course it did.
The cropped shirts, because they can sell, the men's shirts are cheaper than the women's cropped shirts that are the exact same, like, they just can use less material.
That's crazy.
I mean, more power to, I'm all about people like innovating and whatever, especially because when I was so excited about doing this podcast, and I know that a lot of your audience is online stores and digital. The state of in-store retail from after COVID is just in such a bad way. Like
it's still where majority of stuff is purchased too. Like it could be so much better. It could be so much better.
When was the last time that you went into any sort of retail space and saw the variety, saw the intentional purchasing that you used to see pre-COVID? That you used to be able to I feel like all of my little gift stores, my little places I used to go to get really well curated stuff, or if I was on the way to a party, I would stop there every single time to bring a gift to the host. Those places are gone. Even Nordstrom's launched their flagship store in Manhattan right before COVID. And it was it's right by Central Park. It's 6 stories. It was a huge launch for them. And they had an entire gift floor that was just the most well curated. Wow. And you go there now, there's maybe one at Christmas, maybe they have a kiosk. But other than that, it's just let's take the 6 things we sell and buy a shit ton of them.
The last store that I went to was Walmart. And it went into, but do you know what I went in there to get? I went in there to get canning. I went to get mason jars because I had bought 4 on Amazon for $22.
You should go to Hobby Lobby.
Well, I could do that as well. It was just
Was it Sunday? Was it Sunday?
It was just closest. No, it was a Thursday or Friday, but it was just closest to my house. And I went in and my wife was knowing what I needed. She's after I bought these jars on Amazon, they were more expensive because they were being shipped, of course. Yeah. But it was quick and I wasn't thinking about it. And my wife was way more knowledgeable about that. And so she's you should just go to Walmart. And they had 12 jars for $16. But I needed them because I've been making my own bitters.
You just the amount of information and personal, how detailed about your inner life I now know, but between that entire sentence of
I live close to Walmart.
Ordering them, but they weren't right, but you needed more. So you went to the Walmart and you were already being snooty about the fact that you went into a Walmart.
Oh, I didn't care about going to Walmart. I didn't want to go into a store. I wanted it to be shipped to me. That's why I ordered it on Amazon. Because I'm I didn't.
But here's the thing. If you think about it, I love I used to love shopping. I used to love going into retail spaces. But even as a mom, like going to the grocery store after I dropped the kids off and having an hour to just like listen to a podcast and grocery shop used to be like my relaxing state. I don't have time a lot of time. I order so much, but like the retail experience of if I'm going to be in store, entertain me, have a reason I'm there. Like people even, right before COVID or earlier the year before, I was working on a campaign for Walmart to help launch their at home program. And I think they now call it Plus or something. They're trying to relaunch it now, but at the time it was, you have a body cam on, they put little things on you. I was doing their full website, all their imagery and photography and video. And I was like, who wants to let a Walmart person like come into your house? They have to turn on their body cam footage like a policeman. What happens to that body cam footage? But what their intention was, it was like, yeah, but what about the like 75-year-old person who like, this is the only person they might interact with. They need their stuff put in the fridge. They need their medications delivered.
And that's true because I've heard guys that were like on the police force, like we would get calls from an old lady. She just wanted someone to hang out with. I know physicians where they would just get visits from people that are older because that was the person they could go and see.
Yeah, there's a new documentary right now about like this. It's called The Perfect Neighbor about this. It's all body cam footage. This entire documentary of this woman who just keeps calling the police on all the kids in her neighborhood. And it's insane. And in reality, like I haven't seen it yet. I just saw like a preview for it and I'm very intrigued, but it kind of seems, I'll probably cry. It sounds sad, but it's really just like, of course she is because she's alone. Lonely people need it too, but it's also like, then sell that as like your market, right? Like be very clear on that. And I think, but retailers, like I was chatting with a woman the other day who just won she just won a sort of a scholarship or like a grant from Know Women, which is like a women's organization for entrepreneurs. And they did a $35,000 grant in services and cash for her business. And she has a bakery. She bakes really delicious cupcakes and stuff like that. And one of the things that she's been able to do is hold pop-ups in local, like locally small owned boutiques all around Houston, because it's make it an experience, make people want to come to a shopping experience, whether that's on your website or on your Shopify or in your store. Like it can be in all of those places. I mean, now like with what Pinterest and people are going to be doing, like with creating, like I don't think that creating new technologies of how to shop online should make shopping in store less important. I think it should make it more important for smaller brands to collab with each other and show up and throw these sort of in-person events, but also like think about how you're entertaining people digitally with all the content that you're making.
It should be more intentional. It should be a lot more intentional. Exactly. There's some of the things you're saying are making me think of when my wife and I first started dating. Well, we would have just gotten married. Yeah, I think it was around that time. It would have been, I don't know, maybe 2010 or something. So we will celebrate 17 years next Friday. Something I'm very thankful for. Best decision I ever made, other than following Jesus in my life, was marrying my wife. And I was 22, and I'm not friends with any of these people, but they were like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I'm like, "You'll figure it out when you find someone." I think eventually they did. I don't know, but we're not friends, so it doesn't really matter anymore. But
all my non-married friends I left.
Yeah, I left them behind. But anyway, we used to go to Whole Foods because they did something called 5 after 5. And you would go around to different food stations and you would get 5 glasses of wine for $5. But it was like smaller little samples. But that was what we did on a Friday. That was like our Friday thing. And it was so fun. And we got to try all these new foods. And sometimes it was local, sometimes it was not. But now it's like the in-store experience is like, we just got to get people through. We just got to get people through,
and they're miserable. So we only, basically the people that can't afford delivery have to come in. So that means we don't have to entertain them because they're not worth our, like,
I didn't even think about it like that. Yeah.
Worth it. But it is like, honestly, like the people that can afford delivery just like aren't going into Walmart, right? Like, or they're not doing that kind of stuff, when in reality, it's like, that's what you need. I mean, I had a very similar experience. Central Market is kind of like the H-E-B version of Whole Foods. It's an amazing store, but it's very involved in the community. All of wherever they have stores, every Friday night, every Saturday, they have playgrounds, they have live music. You can walk in, grab a beer and something to eat and come out. And
Yeah, that's
it brings
amazing.
the community together, especially all of us like parents who are just like, where can I throw this child?
Yeah, for a while. Yeah.
Where will people not judge me while this child runs and screams? Like that is, bringing, those days are kind of gone. And I think the retail experience, whether it's online or in person or brand collabs, have been huge this year. Like they don't have to make sense. It's better if they don't make sense. Why, if they don't make sense, it's probably because you're hitting an audience that isn't already yours. So that's better. Like those are the things that I think it's bigger thinking that is not treating your audience like, I don't know, like just a number, like just a piece of data that you don't actually care about.
Yeah. The brand collabs thing was another thing that I thought of. So like I always come back to this. This is more relatable in terms of the collaboration. But one, there was someone that I heard talk about how like Eminem and Jay-Z had a song together and how it was huge for both of them because Eminem was now bringing Jay-Z into people's homes that maybe were not hearing him, even though they were listening to hip hop and rap, and vice versa. But there's a brand that I had on the Longer Game earlier this season called Fishwife, and they have done great. I had their head of sales, Pierre, on, really nice French guy, probably one of the only, like one of two French people that I've maybe actually met, or that I know that I've met. But he was talking about some of their collaborations. They have a collaboration with Fly by Jing, that chili oil that's really, really nice. But then also when they would do sampling, which he also worked for an ice cream company. So it's like, it's a lot harder to sample tuna than it is to sample ice cream because people just get it and they want ice cream. But they would do collaborations like let's pair with a non-alcoholic cocktail or with a specific cracker company. Let's like make these bites that bring people into experience and make it a little bit more contextual. But the sampling is how they've not, like, they're doing well on digital. Yes. They're now in Target and other stuff like that. But
they're doing really, really well.
But sampling is how they've...
They're also hiring.
Yes.
If anyone's
interesting. Listening. Okay. So if you need a job, Fishwife's hiring.
Yeah, they're hiring for, like, I saw somewhere they're hiring for like a new, basically like head of social, like starting their social, really doing more social content for them. But like they are a great example of knowing when you're kind of a weird outlier and embracing that with other weird outliers, right? And not needing, being in Target makes you zero money. I don't know a single brand owner that is like, other than getting visibility, Target is not their goal, right? Like they want write-ups, they want people, like brand collabs. I mean, imagine there's this amazing person that she creates a hand-designed silk scarves, right? And she creates beautiful custom designs on these scarves, and then she partners with brands. That's a perfect one for them to work with, right? Sure. And then they can give away the scarves. But influencers worked originally because that's essentially what they were, right? Was like getting your brand in front of an audience that it might not be in front of. Brands no longer need influencers. I mean, or influencers no longer need brands, right? They can be their own brand. Yeah. Influencer can be like, I just decided to make this candle by putting a sticker on somebody else's candle.
Yeah, I found it at the thrift store.
I literally know the consultants that make all of these candles for them, right? And there's so many platforms now where people can make those things. And the way that you can stand out from the crowd is to not rely on those people. Like that is just a flash in the pan. And so it's funny because a lot of friends of mine that are in that space of influencer space that like left the brand storytelling space because they're like, I guess this is what we're doing now, are now like, now we're all going back to brand storytelling. I wouldn't have left if I knew. It's like, yes, because at the end of the day, you have to have it. And once you go away from, well, I'm just going to borrow this person's audience for a second, like you have brands like Crocs that does collabs better than anybody. But now you're seeing Tajín. Tajín has been doing insane brand collabs this year that make no sense. They don't even need to be like with another brand. It's just a brand that their audience kinds of knows or goes well with them. But it's like, let's create a lip gloss that's spicy and like have, Selena Gomez like push it. Like there's fun stuff. Even,
my daughter uses Tajín like Frank's Red Hot. She puts that shit on everything. Kid you not.
Chili's and Tecovas did a fun, like, let's take all of these old red booths and can like make boots. But like most people that are eating at Chili's are not buying a $500 pair of boots. But people that grew up going to Chili's,
it's nostalgic for them. I love that. Yeah, that's so smart. That's so smart.
They sold out in 5 minutes.
Wow.
Of $550 boots and belts. And then there was a Guy Fieri Revlon like lipstick. It doesn't have to make sense. It's better if it doesn't, right? Like you want again, Crocs is who always comes to mind, but you just see these popping up and it can be small brands. And that's actually who does it best. There's a bagel brand in New York that does this really well. And they partner with a pickle company and they like things that you were talking about that go well together.
That almost makes more sense than Boots and Chili's.
They embrace their outlierness. They embrace that they're like, I don't want to be in Target. I want to be at Erewhon, right? Like if that's your goal, then it's a different thing.
Well, I also know that like if I go to Sprouts, I'm getting something very different than I might get at a Target or a Kroger. And that's why my wife and I are like, please, Sprouts, come to Cincinnati, Ohio. We would love for you to be here because we can only see you when we like go to Florida or somewhere else.
I mean, it's also like instead of paying for what these influencers are charging now and like some of the new SAG complications and everything now that like, why pay $100,000 to borrow someone's audience for 30 days to 2 months? That audience is probably going to move on to the next thing.
And that's the flash in the pan thing you're talking about. Both the influencers, but also the influencers' audience, because there's no authenticity, there's no trust, there's not a real community. And so I think that's why we're seeing more communities being built, but also the influencer can now build their own community and they're not relying upon you.
Their audience like instantly trust the product that they have ownership of more than they trust the other product that they're just hacking for you.
Sure.
Right. So if you go, instead of fitting the full bill, right, of $100,000 and you make an equal investment of $100,000 or 50 with another brand, the audience and what you could do with that is instantly more powerful.
Because you both own the audience and now the brands have authority because of what their product is instead of being a third person.
And it's a brand is always the best person to sell their own brand. Not an influencer who someone knows is being paid to do that. That's why influencer brands are doing so.
And that's also why they have to white label stuff and be clear about sponsored stuff because otherwise it would be like false trust if you didn't say it was sponsored. I actually made the mistake of in a entrepreneur group that I meet with once a month. I said something like, I don't know if I really believe in this influencer thing. This was like 2 months ago. One of the guys runs a social media agency. The other guy is sort of an influencer. And they're like, it's a real thing. I'm like, look, don't get me wrong. I know it's a real thing. My point is, how long will it last? And I think we may have reached fever pitch. And so I don't think that it's something that long term, unless you have your own thing. And one of the guy that's an influencer, he and his wife do actually have their own brand, their own products. They just are also promoting some other stuff as well too.
Yeah, there's also a way to do it that isn't that is improving upon it, right? I think the first 5 years of influencer world of I guess the last 10 to 15, right? I think the first campaign I did with an influencer was for Clean and Clear with some Vine chick.
That's crazy.
And that's how long ago
the only person that really got famous, 2 people from Vine. You know who it is? There's a guy who's a comedian. And his name is like King something. I can't remember what his name is. He's been in like some scary movie shit, whatever. And then Shawn Mendes.
Oh yes. I do all the content that I create is on social. It's on all the socials, right? And I am the like worst social audience because I look at everything with a critical eye. And so I don't love that I'm on here, like on all these podcasts, constantly saying that like the demise of the influencer marketing is coming. If you were at Cannes this year, all you heard about was like influencer, like if you're not on the like because it is dying and they are trying to not. They're trying desperately not to die. And so, and all of Cannes and all of these other things like Ad Age are incestual communication, right? They are speaking into their own void. Ad Age and these other like media teams are only posting what their like advertisers who are giving them money they're just speaking this false truth, hoping that it'll like they can hold on for another few years, which
Yeah.
they can if they're strategic and smart with how they start placing it, right? So like I just literally like got back in last night from a shoot in New York that I did for Airy Bras, and it was starring influencers of various types and sizes, but it was beautifully produced. It was real storytelling. We had, best friends for a decade. We had a mom and a daughter, and we were hearing like their real story. We didn't ask them a single question about the clothes they were wearing. There was not a single piece, there was not a single word that mentioned bras or sweaters or like anything. It was all about storytelling and how their brand line is called Real Ones, and so it was like about being real and how is this your real one and your real person. And so not only is it jumping on I would say like youth culture verbiage of like who's your real one, right? Is that even a cool thing to say anymore? I'm assuming, but it's also like you're getting to see this side of these people they don't normally show you on the content they create for themselves.
Okay, yeah, and that's more relatable and more trustable too.
And if I can scroll all day and see something that somebody else shot, people are starting to care, especially as we have, you see things like Opus Clip or Captions app, all of these new ways to make video and photo look better. Gone are the days of it needing to look cheap. It like the production value has to come back. And that has to be like built into the influencer agency model is no longer, you can have content they're creating too, but there has to be, the older people here will get the reference of like Hub Hero Hygiene, the old school, like when YouTube was really like launching heavily, it was an advertising description of like how you would lay out your video strategy. So you'd have your like big brand produced storytelling, your like hero assets. Then you'd have your hub that would be giving you more detail. Then you'd have your hygiene, which was like, here's how to use the product, right? Like sort of a hierarchy. And we have to get back to something like that because I think people are getting sick of just watching. I can watch videos of myself all day. I want to see storytelling that isn't selling me stuff.
I love it. I think that's where we should cap it. And I just want to cap it with Dani watches videos of herself all day. That's what she does.
I actually do the opposite is what's hilarious to me is I'm the worst at like, I was walking just one like brand thing then I'll let you go. I know I've gone over.
No, you've not gone over. I just am like, I think that's we've covered a lot. We could probably go on because I have more stuff to say, but I don't know. It's that important.
Example of where I think brand, like it goes wrong, right? And it typically is the stuff that brands create themselves outside of having a partner agency.
Well, because they're so focused. They're so in and focused. Yeah.
Yeah. And the people that are a lot of the skill set of storytelling is not necessarily taught anymore. Right. So I was walking down the gate, the ramp or whatever, to get on my Delta flight at like, I don't know, midnight at Atlanta last night. And I'm looking at all of their imagery and I know what goes into that entire photo shoot.
Yeah.
So I'm like seeing every detail and I'm just like, do people not realize that you can tell an entire story in one image? You should like, even if it's a video, you can't even, any idea you have, any story you're trying to tell should be able to be translated in one image by every single detail of it. And I don't think that that's something that is taught and trained into people anymore because they're just like, what's the viral, what's the 5 seconds, what's the like shtick, when in reality, no matter what the idea is, even if you're trying to make like, a 2-hour film, you should be able to create one image that tells you everything that you need to know there, tells the entire story. And that is that's to what I said earlier in the show, like when I'm shaking the tree, like that's what I'm trying to get to is like, what is the actual, like, if this idea can't translate into one sentence or one frame, then it's not really an idea. It's not the idea that you think it is.
Isn't that Occam's razor? The most simple form of something basically is what works. If you have to do too much explaining, you've outdone it. And if people's attention span is so limited, and because they've got so much information and they're starting to block stuff out, you got to make it work in one image.
Well, I went to film school. 20 years ago, a long time ago, where I had to learn how to shoot and develop film. I had to learn how to edit on film.
Photo
And,
class
with
is
a
like one of
reel.
my favorite classes, by the way.
Well, like even
Actual
for
photography,
like film
which
degree,
is
like
different. Yeah.
reels of film. First, they taught us on regular like photography film. Then we had to learn. But I think Final Cut 1 or 2 was out at the time. And the reason that Final Cut and some of these original programs are so difficult to use is because they were built for the people that were used to doing it the other way. So the workflow had to match. And now I can make a cinematic masterpiece in 2 seconds on my phone. So people are not learning the craft. People aren't learning the craft in this stuff and the time and how to like think about it. And like that's why you see so much bad work, because brand people don't see the craft. They see the messaging, they see the logo, they see a color. And that is now like in one ear and out the other for most of for these these desensitized audiences that we have to reach now.
Yeah, I think that honestly, simple is better. Like, fit on the head of a pin. That was from a movie or something. Like, fit it on the head of a pin. How do we do that? How do we fit it on the head of a pin? I don't remember what that is, but I don't know. That seems to make sense. Like, just keep it as simple as possible.
That's why that's what Google does. That's what Apple does. And that's like when I'm saying that brands should be acting like they have money and that they are big brands. That's the kind of stuff, like those are ballsy moves, to not think they have to squeeze every bit of their communication into something.
Yeah.
It's much more intriguing to go to a website that has one word and tells you fucking nothing about it. Tells you nothing about
That's fun.
than it is to like, the amount of times I'm on someone's website, whether it's an agency or a production company, and they call me for consulting or something. They're not asking my opinion.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, your website, like you're trying so hard that I actually can't tell. You're casting so wide of a net because you're afraid people won't know what you're selling, that it's actually less clear of what you're being.
And I love that. We talk about that all the time with people on the Amazon side of things, of like, you've got all these points. Like there's literally one brand we audited, and in their A+ content, they had like 30 product features. And I was like, you don't have that many features. No one's paying attention. You gotta simplify it. Dani, not Dana. I know what your name is. I'm just bad with names, apparently.
No worries.
If people want to know where to find you and what you're doing, where should they look? Outside of a jazz club, waiting, standing in line, this new music called jazz R&B?
They can either find me at the park on a Saturday morning with my 2 children, or you can check my company out at theox.co. I also am on Substack, where I'm talking about more of these ideas. You can check out my Substack called The Ox Cable, or find me on LinkedIn at just Dani Dufresne. And honestly, like, I love having these conversations. So at the top of my LinkedIn, I have a place where you can set up a chat on my Calendly. I'm happy to just have you pick my brain about whatever it is, whether it's content or brand building. Totally free. I'm just here to help.
Love it. All right, you heard it here first. Keep it simple, stupid. We're out. All right, that was the show. What did you think? That was the longer game. We would love for you to share the show with other people and to leave us a review of the show. So go to iTunes, go to Spotify, you can go to YouTube, comment, leave a review, and share this on any social channels that you are active on and wherever you have influence. We want to share this story and stories like it to as many people as possible. Do you have a compelling story and do you want to come on the podcast and talk about it, and you're in the retail industry? Then go to thelongergame.com, fill out a form, and we will contact you about coming on the show. You can find us on any social channels: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and you can go to our website, thelongergame.com, to actually read all of these episodes in blog form in text, because we know not everyone's going to listen. This podcast is brought to you by my agency, Cartology. We are a customized, done-for-you service agency that helps brands win on Amazon. It is super complex selling on the Amazon marketplace. We help simplify that for you. This podcast is also brought to you by Podcastify Me. They are a full-service podcast production company that designs podcasts around people who are paid for their advice. That is coaches. If you want someone to help create, strategize, and distribute your podcast to the masses, go to podcastify.me to find out more. I've so enjoyed that you've been a part of the conversation and that you've given of your time to hear these people's stories. We'd love for you to share. If you want to find out more, just go to thelongergame.com. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Stay blessed. And until next time, cheers.